Welcome to the podcast, My Favorite CPA. I'm CPA Dan Hodges with myfavoritecpa.com. Today we have a special guest, which is my longtime friend, Jordan Wildman Realtor.
What's up, y'all? Thanks for having me on, Dan.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. Jordan, today you're part of my series, which is called The Business Of. Today we are talking about the business of real estate.
Perfect. One of my favorite topics. I'm excited. Let's go.
Before we get started in that, tell me a little bit about your story. What's your background? How'd you get into this?
Dude, I love that. So I was born and raised in Fort Wayne. I grew up downtown, which downtown used to be the ghetto. If you see Fort Wayne nowadays, it's like downtown is where everyone wants to be. There's all the developments happening, and it was definitely not that when I grew up. I grew up in a historic district called West Central, which has a lot of really old Victorian mansions. And I grew up in the poor part of West Central, which was already a war zone. So
on the other side of the
I grew up
tracks.
on Wild Street. Yes, basically, yes. Yeah, it was definitely very crime-ridden. I was not allowed to go outside as a kid. I was an only child. Actually went to private school right across the street and won an award for being late the most and living the closest. They literally made up an award for me.
Just for you.
Yeah. And, so I definitely had some humble beginnings. I really got to learn a lot of what not to do for my childhood. And it turned out to be a fantastic blessing. Ed Milet talks about being the one in your family to change your family tree forever. And I really believe God put all of the things in my life for me to become who I am to this day. Like growing up as a child, like I didn't meet my real dad till I was 16. And like there was a lot of great lessons that I learned from that. When you're a child, you don't know how to rationalize what's happening, especially as an early child, ages 4 to 7 plus. And it forms what are called limiting beliefs. And I didn't realize, but like from my father not being in my life as a child and just my parents working so much, my mom and my stepdad, they would work 3 to 4 jobs at a time.
They were hardworking people.
Well,
blue collar.
because they lived what was called the rat race. They had at points over $100,000 in credit card debt because they used shopping as a avoidance mechanism from like issues that are going on in their life, and it's not to talk bad or anything. It's what happens. A lot of people will use avoidance in different areas of their life and it shows up differently. However, like what happens is there's costs to that too. And so I was alone a lot as a child and, as an only child, like that definitely affected me. And so that created belief systems like I'm not enough or I'm not worthy or I'm not deserving of love. And I didn't realize, but later on in life that those would translate. And kind of like a message that I've learned, and by the grace of God, I got into real estate is, working on yourself is extremely important. You have to be willing to go back to your childhood and work on those limiting beliefs that you might not even know you have. But subconsciously, we are driven subconsciously by most of what we do every single day. Very little of what we actually do is consciously decided. I think you have like 50,000 plus thoughts a day. So really working under the hood is super important. But to go back to like just childhood stuff, it definitely helped shape me. I didn't realize this, but I thought I just had to work a lot of jobs. So when me and my wife got together, we met at Southside High School. She totally rejected me. I built up the courage after like 2 weeks to go and talk to her, and she was like the prettiest girl I'd ever seen. And she
Ruby
just like
is an incredible human being.
Yeah, I'm very blessed. She's from Mexico originally. She came from a very hard past as well. And, like for the most part, when we moved out together, we bought our first house when we were 21. Really, it was just like we had to rely on each other for financial stability. We didn't have like big financial supports. And that really helped us to become very hardworking people.
So at this point in time, just connecting those two together, you were working several jobs. You were working a day job and a night job and round the
In my
clock.
adult life, before real estate, I'd worked 2 full-time jobs a couple different times. Ruby was working full-time and going to school full-time as a nurse. And then the final time that I worked 2 full-time jobs is when I was working at Costco and then also got into real estate.
Yeah.
And then like everything changed.
Wow. Tell us a little bit more about that. How, so before you worked in real estate, I think I know from our past conversations, you were actually a butcher.
Yeah, yeah. I actually worked as a meat cutter at Meijer for almost 5 years. Well, it was like 5 years. I ended up help opening like 10 grand openings for like Meijer's around the country, like all in the Midwest here. But Ruby actually worked at Meijer as well, and we would go to new stores and help open them.
Do
But
the grand opening, and,
yeah,
and
but
you're
it
in
was
there
like overall like
cutting the meat, cutting the steaks.
yeah. Oh, and I was like everyone always wanted me to cut their steaks because I would cut them like exactly how they wanted, like you'd get in a restaurant. Like I really believed in that customer service, and I think one thing I really learned from like my childhood from my mom, like she just really loved me, and
You were
how
a people
important-
pleaser. Is that
Yes,
built into
absolutely.
your personality? Yep.
Yeah, and that's one of the ways those limiting beliefs can show up.
It's
is
programmed.
people pleasing.
It's programmed. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And it's not a fault or anything. It just happens. And so, but there's also cost of those people pleasing tendencies too. You end up abandoning yourself. You're not authentic to what your needs are. You don't set boundaries very well. And being an entrepreneur and doing real estate have really helped me to work on those things. And really, entrepreneurship is just self-improvement in disguise. But like really,
that.
truly, if you're willing to work on yourself, it directly correlates to your business.
I really like that. Being an entrepreneur is self-improvement in disguise.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm sure you can attest to that
Absolutely.
in your career as well.
Absolutely. But yeah, wow. That is really well said.
And speaking on like Meijer, I worked there for like 5 years. I felt very stuck. I fought so hard to get promoted for a long time. And I ended up switching to Costco because like the upward potential was significantly higher. The benefits were incredible. And they actually gave me supervisor in training working there part-time after 6 months,
So
which is like unheard of.
they made some promises and they followed through on them. You can work this many hours and you can grow.
Yep. And so like I ended up leaving Meijer and I took a 50% pay cut to go to Costco. And I did my supervisor in training, and then like I thought I was going to be getting a management position shortly after that, and that didn't happen. And then by that point, like I realized, the saying, the grass is greener on the other side. Well, there's probably because there's more manure. I will say, like, Costco wasn't a fantastic stepping stone for me, but I realized as long as I work for someone else, like, my success is going to be predicated on what somebody sees in me.
It's tied to their plan for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, how it fits in their convenience. And, like, I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I still can't remember like how I got tied onto that book. But when I did,
I know we talked about it when we met at the investors group.
Yeah, but like that book like flipped a switch in my head. It was very validating because it helped me to realize what I had grown up in and what I always knew that something was wrong.
The poor dad mentality.
The rat race, and I knew that like that's not who I wanted to be, and I really truly did want to build financial freedom because like the cost of not investing in yourself and working on those limiting beliefs and building financial freedom or building assets that provide you with a lifestyle is, not having a retirement in your 50s or like having to work at a factory for 35 years in your life. And for some people that might be okay for them. That might serve them, but I wanted to be more, and I knew I was capable of more. So I read that book and it just like flipped a switch for me. And then I started like really doing the deep dive on bigger pockets and really learning like, how do you run numbers on rental properties? What is a good deal? What's the difference between multifamily and single family? And, learning like, okay, how do you know if they're a good tenant or not? And I got really stuck in a place of analysis paralysis, which I think is where most people get stuck. Really, truly.
It's common.
The hardest deal you'll ever do is your first deal. It's really like who you have to become to jump over that threshold.
It starts up here, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the game is all right here between these 6 to 7 inches. But, so after kind of being stuck for a while, I joined a local RIA group, the Fort Wayne RIA, which stands for Real Estate Investor Association. And then I got to be around local people that were doing it, and that was so validating. I got to see other guys that were
other human beings who you can have coffee with, who they're actually, invested, and so on and so forth.
Well, and it was such a dynamic group at that time too. Like there were guys that were just getting
the
started.
Old guys,
like me.
There's the young guys,
the guys that
everyone
are hundreds of doors. The great
Yep.
CPA that has all this financial advice. Had the coolest beard I'd ever seen by that point. And but that's where we met. And yeah, dude, like
it's reality when you can talk with someone. It's not just reading a book.
It's not just YouTube.
It's not just YouTube. Exactly. Yeah. Well, so do you have any advice you would give to someone getting into real estate now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the best, probably the two best pieces of advice I can give is you are the greatest return on investment you will ever make in your entire life. Like directly, whatever you put into yourself will pay off in dividends forever. And so like if you invest in a mastermind or like really pay to be around other people that are at the level or the people that you want to become, like one of the trainings I listened to once, they said if I could tattoo a saying on my children, it would say your friends will dictate the quality and direction
I
of
knew
your
that
life.
there's a couple different ways to say it, but I knew that's where you were going
Yeah.
with it. It's if you look at who you hang out with,
Yeah.
that's what you're going to end up.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
if you want to be independently wealthy or a businessman, entrepreneur, if you hang out around those people, you're going to learn to think how they think.
Yes.
And, by sharp contrast, I'm trying to think of something not too bad, but, if you hang out with druggies and losers and,
Yeah. People who you don't want to be and don't have the results that you want in your life.
you pick up those habits.
Yeah, and so I think it's a twofold thing. One, you have to become the person that attracts those type of people into your life, and then two, like add value to them as much as possible, and then by association, being around those types of people. Like, here's the thing: you will never win versus your environment. Like James Clear talks about it in his book Atomic Habits. Like if you go to your kitchen every single day and you have a big pile of fresh cookies just on the kitchen countertop, but you swear that you're not going to eat them. Yeah, chocolate chip, got M&Ms in some of them.
It's my favorite. And the
But, like,
evidence precedes me around corners.
Exactly, but like if you like promise yourself you're not going to eat them, but you walk by them every single day,
Smell good.
eventually the environment will win.
Yep.
The privilege is though you get to design your environment, and the environment is more than just your living situation. It's what you eat, what you surround yourself with, what you put in your mind, who you surround yourself with.
What you put in your body and when you put in your brain.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And
100%.
and so like really purposefully designing your environment to serve who you want to become, and that's who you surround yourself with. So I would say, like, honestly, get in a community of people that you want to become. So whether that's a RIA group, if you really want to get into real estate investing, or a realtor mastermind, if you want to be a real estate agent, start learning from the people that are further down the path that you can model from, and just add value and have a great positive outlook towards that.
There's a famous book that says iron sharpens iron, and men sharpen other men. So the idea is same thing. If you're around that, you're going to get better. You're gonna come
Absolutely.
up. Yep.
I will tell you, when I became self-employed, got into real estate, I started getting around those types of people, and my life changed drastically. Like I noticed a direct proportional increase in who I was as a person, and then also net worth and
You felt better, and you
lifestyle.
were thinking about other things other than
Well, because if you get around good people that like they're doing great things, that's so exciting, and you like it motivates you to do that too, because you don't want to get left behind. Like especially if you're a self-driven person and you give a shit. It's very easy to check out, and that's one of those limiting beliefs and how they show up. But like you start getting around people that actively work on themselves, view vulnerability as a superpower, not a weakness, and really like how I really have learned to live my life, and it's served me very well, is to look at your life through two lenses: the lens of gratitude and abundance. If you can look at every situation in your life through those two lenses, I mean, you are just so poised for success. Because like otherwise, how most people live their life, how we're taught from our parents, how we're taught from school, is scarcity and negativity.
Right.
Like that's why when you watch the news, it's always negative and
Negative,
scarcity,
negative.
because
Yep.
that's what attracts your caveman brain.
I feel like even school, at least for me, it was like you didn't get 100%. You're something less than 100.
Well, school is so broken, man. It's if you collaborate at all, you're cheating, which is not how it works in the real
Real
world.
life,
You have to
right.
do everything alone. You would never get anywhere. There is not one person that is self-made. Like you're made through a series of relationships that like what's his name? The Ty Lopez here. I'm here in my garage guy. He says the 33% rule. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No,
but
tell
I really
us.
love it. Imagine if like You're on the ladder, you're climbing through your life. You have the 33% of people that are above you. Those are your mentors, your guides, the people that
Yep.
may just be one rung ahead or multiple rungs ahead.
Yep.
Those people like can pull you up to the next rungs, or you can, reach up and they'll pull you.
Or at least follow their path.
Right, exactly. Like use them as a guide to get to your next level. Then you have the people at the same level, the 33%
That are
on the
peers.
same level. They're peers, the people you hang out with, the people that you get to share in the journey in, the hard times, the good times. And then you have the 33% of people below you that you get to be the guide and mentor to. And what he talks about is you have to spend about a third of your time with each rung and then the ladder. Because if you spend too much time with any of them, like it'll keep you stagnant.
It could pull you down.
Or pull you down. Absolutely.
Yep. Or if you're always amongst people that are uber successful, you might be thinking like, I don't have this kind of success. You could. Is that
Well,
part
it
of the
could totally
analogy?
be taken as like I'm just self-serving. Like if I'm only looking up for opportunity and I'm only thinking what's in it for me, and I'm also not giving back to the people below me, like that's going to naturally like push those people away from you because most people at that level. They are there and they're always willing to pull people up because they have that abundance mindset and they know that the more that they give, the more that they will receive.
Nice.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So just moving the conversation a little bit, tell us a little bit. I want to talk about more the business of being a realtor and the business of real estate. How competitive is the real estate market as a realtor?
Well,
and by the way, I know how to spell realtor,
Yeah.
but I notice everyone puts extra A in there.
They do.
Realtor.
Realtor.
So I'm like, I'm
Everyone
going to
says
jump on the
realtor.
bandwagon and say realtor.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny. I just, my video and photo guy, Dustin McKibben, he always says realtor, and he's like the premier guy for the top
Right.
agents in town. And
Realtor.
he still says it wrong, and I always talk shit to him about it. And I'm like, you mean realtor? Like, so it's just funny. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
As far as being an agent and being competitive, I don't give a shit about like how many agents are in a market. I don't care what the market's doing. You get to choose the momentum that you follow. Like again, designing that environment purposefully. So all I can control.
So when you're hearing the sky is falling, you don't even hear it. You just brush it off.
like, okay,
keep on
now what
moving.
are the new opportunities?
Yeah.
Like really looking from the abundance mindset of like, okay, well, this is my circumstances. What can I control? If you truly want to keep somebody stuck in life, have them focus on things they cannot control,
Absolutely.
which is exhausting. You have no control over it. You can't do anything other than just like be in a fear-based mindset.
So you're always looking for opportunities. Interest rates are up. Where's the opportunity?
Dude, so like as an example, it's just listings change. The prices can either drop or you can offer seller concessions to buy down the rate. Like there's so many creative ways. Seller financing becomes more prevalent. Like it's just you got to learn how to adapt. You have to be like water in the tide, just being malleable.
Yep. And just have conversations. Like we have someone that they got another 6 months left in their lease, but they want to buy a house. How are they going to give it? Oh my gosh. Well, ask.
Buy out the lease.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It can be done.
Get the seller to pay some credits that pay up the difference that they would have needed to.
Yeah.
It's just willing to be creative and having an open mind, and then getting around people that are already doing creative things, and you're like, okay, I never thought of this approach.
Right.
You get around the right people, you'll be successful no matter what the market's doing.
Yep. The collaboration is
Yeah.
really beneficial.
I would say like if you don't have a coach, like you're just shooting yourself in the foot. Like it's just really having that person that's a couple rungs ahead is extremely important.
Do you find coaches locally, or do you find them regionally, or do you
Both.
find them nationally, or how do
all
you
over.
go about finding?
Yeah, a lot of what I've done is I've found coaches through self-development seminars I've been to or masterminds. Like you have to be willing to put yourself out of your current bubble because everything that you want in your life lives outside of that bubble. Dan Locke, he's a serial entrepreneur. He talks about your comfort zone. And every single thing that you have in your life, your current experiences, your education level, the amount of money you have, the cars that you've had, anything that you have currently have or have had experienced in your life is your comfort zone because you've already experienced it and you already have it. If you want anything outside of that, like the nicer cars, the better lifestyle, the better relationships, whatever that looks like for you, those are all things that are outside of the bubble. And the only way to get those things is to expand the bubble over time so it overlaps those things.
So this isn't going to happen overnight. You
Yeah.
have to be patient, but you have to work the right
You have to do things that are uncomfortable. You have to be willing to do uncomfortable things every day. And by doing that, over time, you will expand the bubble. So right now, I know we had talked about this offline. Like I'm doing something that's called 75 hard right now. And believe me, I can tell you it is very effing uncomfortable.
In 75 hard for our listeners is?
It's a mental toughness challenge designed by Andy Frisella.
Okay.
He is the CEO of First Form, which is a supplement company and fitness company.
Okay.
Anyways, extremely super successful serial entrepreneur. Essentially what it is, over the course of 75 days, you have daily commitments. And if you miss any of them, any single day, you have to start over. And so the commitments are, you have to work out twice a day for 45 minutes each time. One has to be outside. Oof. That's one of them.
Is this everybody's commitment or just your commitment?
Anyone that's doing 75 hard.
Oof.
Number 2 is you have to read 10 pages of an entrepreneurial or self-improvement book every single day, and audiobooks do not count.
Ooh.
Which I can tell you for me personally has been very hard. And I like
focus.
Dude,
you got to turn the phone off for 10.
You have to turn the phone off, which is like the hardest damn thing to do.
Yep.
And then you have to drink a gallon of water a day, which is a lot.
Yeah.
I pee so much, it's hilarious. So then you have to take a progress picture every day, which seems so simple, but it's actually the most failed thing on 75 hard across all of the time that they've been tracking it, because it's so simple that like you miss the detail. And then no cheat meals, you have to follow a diet, and no alcohol.
Okay.
All for those 75 days.
Okay.
And if you miss any of them,
go back to
if you follow your integrity, day 1 over again. So I'm on like day 19 or 20 right now.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Well,
and I feel so good, man. Like last night I was working out and I was literally almost in tears on my second workout because I did not want to do it. My body did not, like, I was exhausted. I hadn't eaten since earlier in the day. I was very tired because like it is physically exerting to work out twice a day, on top of like already having your daily responsibilities. And especially as an entrepreneur, you're always doing things.
Always.
But like what's so cool is who you become on the other side of those expanding the bubble.
You got to set your eyes on that, don't you?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I've never had a six pack, so it's like it's something I'm really committed to. I really want to have that because it's just for me, like
Yep.
I know that like if I look in the mirror and if I'm at my peak state, like how much more am I going to produce and give to more people,
And just so you know, not everyone can have a six pack. A
Yeah.
lot of it is DNA. I personally was down to like 9% body fat, and I did not have a six pack.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I was pissed. But
Wow.
you know what? Not everyone is going to have one.
But I think it's just like
Body
taking care
composition
of
is
your
a very
body.
tough thing too. But you want to be in the best shape you can be.
Yes.
To be the best you can be
Yeah.
for yourself and for everyone
And for others.
else.
Yeah, I
Yep.
mean, the more that you invest in yourself, the more, like I used to think that like with people pleasing and things like that, I just had to give. However, what I've learned is there's 3 types of there's selfish, selfless, and then self first. And you have to be willing to be a steward of yourself so that then you can be a steward of others. Like it's just like this cup. Shout out to my favorite CPA. Like if I just am always pouring into this cup and then mine's empty, like I have nothing left to give. And how is that serving anyone, especially myself? So instead, if I allow others to pour into me and I pour into myself, and then it just overflows to the point where it's just pouring into other people, that's really where you're living truly in abundance and you're giving. Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people they'll just empty their cups or have a not willing to receive. A lot of people really struggle with being willing to receive. That's something that's been a big thing in my life. I realized what it ultimately is actually doing is you're taking from other people being able to give to you. And if you're taking
If
from
you're not
people,
willing to receive.
correct. Yeah, because think about this. Think about the most intimate, most important relationship in your life. Imagine if you gave them the gift that you knew they've wanted their entire lifetime. You gave it in their favorite color. You had the perfect wrapping that you knew they were going to love, and you were giving them something that was so significant and special. And then you hand it to them, and then they throw it in the trash right in front of your eyes and give it no regard. How would that make you feel?
Awful.
Right. That's how it goes when you're not willing to receive when someone's willing to give to you.
Right.
And it's you're robbing them of the opportunity to love you. And I did that for a very long time because I didn't want to I didn't want to hurt
You were
somebody, or I didn't want to like inconvenience them because I didn't think I was worth it, or like I didn't want to like hurt them. But ultimately, like when you give something to somebody, it's just as much as a gift for you, if not more. You know, when you get to see like what it meant to them and how it influenced and impacted them and what it's going to do for their life and the joy that they got from it, like it's truly a privilege to give. It really, really is. And when you're not willing to receive, it's robbing people of that opportunity, which is taking from them.
I never thought of that. I mean, I have, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's something to think about regularly. Well, we're running a little long on time, but I did want to ask just a couple more things.
Yep. Ready.
I wanted to ask about, the financial side of being a realtor or an investor. If you could just tell us a little bit about that.
Well,
Because, I am a CPA and,
Yes.
you know your financial condition.
Yeah.
I can't talk about your financial condition.
Yeah.
But you can share what you'd like to share.
Well, I had a great meeting with my CPA when I was first getting started in real estate, and I had never made six figures in my life, and he was like, Jordan, what do you think you're going to make this year? Because based on that, we're going to do a different entity structure. I'm going to give you different recommendations.
You go this way or go this way. Yep.
Yeah, which I can tell you, like one of the very most cornerstone people on your team is a good CPA. Like if you can, I would definitely recommend following Dan right away. Like he's got incredible advice. He's actually been a great guide to me over the course of the last several years. And I don't know what Ruby and I would do without him and his team. So huge little shout out.
Thank you.
But we had the conversation and I was like, I'm going to make $100,000 as an agent my first year. And he was like, I'm pretty sure the average agent does like 3 to 5 deals their first year and makes less than $30,000. I forget what the average is. But he's like, are you really sure you're going to do that? Because if you are, then this is how we want to set it up. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I believe I can do it. I've never made six figures in my life and I'm going to do it. And my first full calendar year as an agent, I did 57 deals, sold 103 unit apartment building that year, and went from making like 30, 40 grand a year to making over 300 my first year as an agent.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. And obviously the things you're talking about, they work.
Yes.
Having, retuning these self conversations and
absolutely
being willing to be giving and being willing to receive and things like that.
I mean, dude, I can tell you when I finally became self-employed and I got around better people and like abundant-minded thinkers, people who were super committed to their self-growth. I mean, I went from having no net worth or any financial anything to being a millionaire in 2 years from real estate. Like we built that in 2 years. We went from 0 to 39 doors in 2 years.
It's a lot of things. It's not one thing, but being around the right people made the difference.
Yeah, and it's just being committed. Like if you're just really willing to be committed to your self-growth, you will attract other people that are also on the same journey. And that's super addicting and fun. Like I've gotten to go on vacations that I never even thought possible. I've gotten to go on amazing self-development seminars that have made me a better person, that have ultimately allowed me to be able to hopefully give to people like, listening to this. Like we weren't taught this stuff in school, and most of us did not learn this stuff from our parents, and they did the best that they could with the resources that they thought they had at the time, and that's okay. But like I believe that there is more, and people can achieve it.
I really wanted to hear two things from you. I hope we have an extra minute. Oh, we got to wrap this up soon, but could you tell everyone out here one of the best investments you've ever done and one of the worst investments you've ever done?
I would love to. The first 5-unit property, this was my first real investment property that I'd ever bought. The reason I got it is because I helped some other investors buy a 100-unit apartment building in my first year. And so just really adding as much value and not expecting anything in return. So I brought the deal of a lifetime to them. They really traded up, and then they had this brick fiveplex.
In turn, they said, hey, we have this, we need to get this out of our portfolio.
Because it had just been through a fire. It was fully condemned, no utilities, half the roof had been missing for months, been raining in the building.
That is an uphill battle.
That was my first property I ever bought. And
talk about drinking from the fire hose.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, freaking fire property. Crazy, dude. Like if you've never rehabbed a fire property, they're a very advanced rehab comparatively to just a cosmetic paint and flooring remodel. Right. And I had dreamed of having a multifamily for years by that point, and I was like, just if you put your subconscious to work and tell it what you want,
Your brain will figure it out.
Find
It
it.
will.
And so I would like anytime I'm driving down the road, I'd be like, oh, there's a fourplex. It's got 4 gas meters and 4 electric meters, and I would just like always be looking. And these investors, their contractors were actually going to be the ones to buy it, but they were just kind of tiptoeing around it and they weren't serious. So what I was able to come up with deal wise was no money down, seller financing, no payments for the first 2 months, and 6% interest. So my payment after those 2 months was going to be $430 a month, and it got it for $60,000. It took me 9 months to renovate this building because it was a significant rehab. I had no experience, but what I did have is I had mentors and network of people that supported me and encouraged me and told me it was possible and gave me connections. So that's why I talk about
Just even hearing you retell this, it's just crazy, Jordan.
So I put 70,000.
When did they call you the Wild Man?
That's literally my last name. 7 days a week. But I put $70,000 into the property, so I was all into it for $130,000. On the back end, I did what's called the BRRRR strategy. When you buy a distressed property, renovate it, rent it out, refinance, and then repeat. It's BRRRR.
Yep.
All in for 130. It appraised for 365,000.
Oh my gosh.
So a significant increase in value. So I pulled out a refinance for 75% loan to value, got a loan for $270,000. After paying off the land contract and closing costs, I got a check for $207,000 of tax-free money that then I got to go use to invest into more deals, which is like, that was my start.
That started to fuel your growth.
Absolutely.
And you got that strategy from being around these people.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And being committed to my own self-education too, like doing that Bigger Pockets deep dive and reading the books and the podcasts. And,
so that was one of your best deals. How about one of your worst deals?
Oh man. Okay. Well, I think I actually just completed it. So like the journey is not always glamorous. I bought another fire property down the road from this one, and I bought a duplex, an up and down duplex for $30,000.
You thought, I've done fire properties. I can do this.
Yeah, and bought it for $30,000. We ended up putting over 120 into it, so we're like into it for over 150,000. But like the property is probably worth at most 200. And so like it's nowhere near the same juice versus the squeeze as that 5 unit.
Yep.
But that one had
a lot of things have changed in that time frame there. You know, the market changed, the supply of labor and materials,
the cost. Cost is dramatically more now. Like that same $70,000 rehab that
you were at the perfect intersection of education, experience, time, and just everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But so, you know, we're not going to lose money on it, but we're definitely not going to have anywhere near the upside that we originally thought because the budget went way over, the timeline went way over. And, you know, ultimately that's my responsibility as an investor. But yeah, it's still a win.
You weren't buying it to like, you know, make $1 million overnight.
Yeah.
You were buying this as part of a long-term strategy.
Correct.
I always call real estate a get-rich-slow strategy. So the current market, when I say current, the past 5 years, it's a little bit of aberration. I think, and in my humble opinion, it'll come back. But get rich slow. If you're just saying somebody else can pay the mortgage for 10 years or 15 years, and then in 10 or 15, 20 years, when I'm ready to retire or do what I want to do, I have a paid up property.
Yeah.
That's a good position to be in.
And it's a fantastic way to offset your taxes, especially if you're a real estate professional.
Yes.
I can definitely say if you're looking to get into real estate sales, you have a very competitive tax advantage being a real estate professional. And I will say, please contact your CPA for advice.
That's right.
But
everyone's situation is different.
Correct. But like you really can use that as a fantastic tool if
leverage
you start,
tax strategies.
You have to. And I think if you have the right accountant and tax strategist in
guidance,
place,
mentor, leadership,
100%, they will totally support your growth and allow you to keep more of your money.
I'm very proud of you, Jordan Wildman.
Thank you, brother. You too.
You've been a great friend. I've enjoyed working with you all these years and knowing you and watching your success from the sideline and day to day when we talk. And if any of my listeners would like to reach out to you, what would be a good way to do that? Yeah,
you can follow me on Instagram. It's at WildmanJordan or just Facebook, Jordan Wildman. And then, we have an office line. It's 260-200-3855, and you can even just text it. So
thank you very much. And then I would like to say for my listeners, like, comment, share, subscribe, and follow. Hit the little bell if you would. And of course, if you got comments, drop them down below. And we'll see you next time.
Let's go.